Good evening, everyone. कैसे हैं सब? All geared up for the next chapter? Josh is present. Saw the chapter chart you uploaded. I told you. That's the easiest way to revise anything, even for the practical subjects as well, like costing, FM, eco, or your EIS, SM as well. You can apply this practice in any subject. Just prepare a chapter chart, topic chart, whatsoever, and prepare the super summaries. Not the tailor-made summaries, the super summaries which you can prepare on your own. So that's what is going to help you a lot during the exam time as well. So Josh has seen the chapter chart. Anybody else? You got all the notes? सबको नोट्स मिल गए हैं चैप्टर 6 के, चैप्टर 7 के, चैप्टर चार्ट? Aman, random sampling still uses some technique or method, consistent method, whereby you could choose some samples by the way of a logic. Like the random number table, and it uses some logic or whatsoever technique. But haphazard sampling is something which is like no use of any technique, nothing. Just there is a bag, you just pull out balls. That's it. So anything has a chance of getting selected, right? Oh, seen in last batch notes. Okay, fine. That's also cool. So those, good evening, Ayush. Good evening. So, okay. So what would I suggest? I would suggest, like you guys were asking me about the technique of doing revision of theory subjects as well in the last class. I would suggest, my sole suggestion would be chapter charts in your own language, on your own style. I just gave you a glimpse, just an example. So try making chapter charts along with studying whatever you are studying from the module, from the notes, and just jot it down in the form of a chart right away simultaneously, so that when you revise, you get to recall whatever you have read, understood, and learned. So phase by phase, process by process, you'll be able to memorize the concepts. Almost 90% of the concepts you'll be able to memorize, and it would not feel like a foreign subject at the time of exams, which it usually does, because you have to prepare 4 or 8 subjects at a time, and just a gap of 1 day in between the exams. It's like the khichdi. So just to prevent the making of that khichdi in your brain, you can refer to such unique techniques. Yes, Mr. Muhammad David, notes are uploaded on the portal itself. All notes, all assignments, MCQs, all have been uploaded till now. Okay, Sneha, rate of deviation in auditing is, for example, there are CCTV cameras in the building, in the client's building, and the client says that usually we have 25 cameras, and usually 5 of the cameras, if any fine day, you will find that 5 of the cameras would have problem working, right? So what is the rate of deviation? Expected rate of deviation. Deviation from the internal controls, from good controls, right? All 25 should have been working, but it says 20 are usually fine on any fine day, but 5 cameras just give us problem. So 5 by 25, 20%, right? 20% is a rate of deviation. Like usual rate of deviation. At any point of time, if you visit the building, if you check the security cameras, CCTV cameras, you'll find that 5 of the cameras usually have problem. Now, when the auditor visited the client premises and he was to check the internal controls, the expected rate of deviation was 20%, but he found that 15 cameras were not working or were having some problem, technical issue or something like that. His rate of deviation increased 15 by 25 into 100, 60%, 20 to 60%, 3 times. The actual rate of deviation from the controls expected was 20%. Actually, it should have been 100%, right? All the cameras should have been working completely fine. But if rate of deviation is 20%, you are achieving a target of 80% perfection in controls, good controls. But when the auditor visited and checked the controls, he found 60% deviation. The rate of deviation is in the case of controls. Okay. I hope, Sneha, it is clear. Good evening, everyone. Oh, definitely, Josh. Definitely. Josh, just may remind me at the end of today's class. I'll definitely take this up. Right? So Josh has a request that he wants to know where do students make most mistakes in the audit paper, and he wants to know that so that he can work on that beforehand, before appearing in the exam. And definitely, for every one of you, we'll definitely discuss that. Just remind me at the end of the session. Anything else, people, please let me know. Okay, Alok, I'll come to that. With an example, I'll come to that. Chaliye, should we start with today's chapter, chapter 8, Analytical Procedures? No, Ayush, 20% deviation is what is actually over their expected rate of deviation. Differs from situation to situation, company to company, and auditor to auditor. This is what actually is 20. वैसे तो 100% सही होने चाहिए कैमरा. There should not be any fault in the cameras. But usually क्या है, 20% कैमरा खराब रहते हैं. उनके कहने का ये मतलब है. तो ऑडिटर वो तो बोलेगा भी 20% भी क्यों खराब रहते हैं भैया. So you should make that controls the best. I won't say there are weak controls, but there are not that good controls. भी आपके 5 कैमरे कभी भी खराब रह रहे हैं. So that is the expected rate of deviation. भी मैं किसी भी दिन जाऊंगा तो 5 कैमरास मुझे खराब मिलेंगे जैसे इन्होंने बताया, पर मेरे जाने पर मुझे 15 कैमरास खराब मिले. 60% was the rate of deviation from actual controls. Okay. Yeah. Congratulations, Danish. You'll complete module 1. Yes, Sneha. Sneha, test of details is what we are going to do today. Test of controls is checking the controls in the organization. Who's the maker? Who's the checker? What are the security arrangements? What are the physical access controls? What we did general controls, right? Internal controls in automated environment. In controls की क्या strength है? कितने अच्छे controls है? Who can enter the building? Who can leave the building, right? What is the system of attendance, biometrics, or physically in register? Is there, along with CCTV cameras, is there a watchman who can access what system? These are controls. Who can enter you, like in the home, who can enter. My mother would warn me from entering the kitchen if I can spill something in the kitchen while making anything, while cooking anything. If I spill, spilling the beans, right? The phrase comes from over here. So she'll bar my entry from the kitchen. No, you cannot enter. Like who can enter the rooms in the house, who is limited to the living room. So this is what controls in the house, controls in a daily life, controls in an organization. When we talk about controls in a business organization, rate of deviation and test of details is test of your transactions. What transactions are taking place in the financial transactions, like profit and loss, expenses, income, balance sheet ledgers, balance sheet accounts. That is test of details. So I hope test of control, you can check the compliance procedures. somewhere, and test of details, we use a substantive audit procedure, which is our today's very important topic. Substantive audit procedures, substantive analytical procedures. Substantive procedures means it is related to today's chapter. When you check the financial accuracy in the books of accounts, you check the profit and loss items, you check the balance sheet items, you make comparisons, you apply your audit procedure on those figures. So this is what today's chapter is all about. Yes, Mr. Kojima, 20% is could be tolerable, depends upon the auditor. What is his tolerance level? Okay. Fine. Chaliye. Let's move. Okay, so we have this. Can you people see my screen? Okay. So here we go. The learning outcomes from this chapter. Chapter 8, Analytical Procedures. See, procedures are the audit procedures. Okay. What do we mean by analytical? Analytical means where analytics is involved, analysis, some permutation combination, some logic is involved, some operation is involved related to mathematics, statistics, and everything, reasonability, logical reasoning. So analytics related to that. You remember those games you would play in the during your childhood, बचपन में in the school. मेरे चाचा की मासी का बेटा का वो मेरा क्या लगता है, something like this, right? Okay, so just connecting the dots, comparing, and all that thing when you are auditing the financial statements of any organization, the books, the ledger. So this is where we have to use analytical procedures, and it is the most important part of doing any audit. Whether it is a tax audit, statutory audit, whatever, you will get to learn about this in your CA finals. This is the most important part. And believe me, you're going to enjoy the logics today. Okay, so let us go. What are our topics? What are our objectives for the day? Understand the meaning of analytical procedures as per standards on auditing. Standard hai iska, analytical procedures ka. Purposes and timing of analytical procedures. Purposes हमें पता लगी गया, timing हम देखेंगे अभी. Deal with auditors' use of auditor कब कहाँ कैसे use करता है. How does the auditor use it? Substantive analytical procedures. Identify risk of material misstatement. Very important. Risk of material misstatement through preliminary analytical review during the planning stage. Review. Preliminary review, properly designing, documenting, and evaluating the results of substantive analytical review procedures. Chaliye, let's move ahead. Meaning of analytical procedures. Since routine checks cannot be dependent upon to disclose all the mistakes or manipulation that may exist, certain other procedures have to be applied, like comparisons. You will be reading everything, trend, ratio analysis. These are known as overall tests. So we have SA 520 on analytical procedures. So the number is really important for you. SA 520. Okay, SA 520. So it's given us an example. Let us study that example. What does it say? So what does it say? It says there is CA Amar who wants to verify the payments made by XYZ Limited on account of building rent. So XYZ Limited is paying rent of the building, and the rent amounts to rupees 50,000 per month for the year. The monthly rent payments are consistent with the rent agreement. So they have entered into a rent agreement with the landlord. Other companies in the similar industry are paying 10,000 per month. So how is CA Amar going to verify this? See, as a chartered accountant, if I am auditing the books, I would say, okay, what does your rent agreement say? What is the need of analytical procedures? Why do we need analytical procedures to be applied in our audit. So I've gone to, let us take two volunteers, right? So who is ready to volunteer? Let me take, okay, Priyanka is there and Josh is there. Okay. So Priyanka and Josh, they are the article trainees. They are on an audit of XYZ Limited, right? So what does it say? So Josh is doing, Priyanka is doing the audit, Josh and Priyanka. And what do they do? When it comes to rent payments, they ask for rent agreement. So the manager of the XYZ Limited brings the rent agreement, shows them, they check, okay, it is written 50,000 per month. And what do you have charged? 50,000 into 12, right? So what is it? 50,000 into 12. 6 lakhs. 6 lakhs has been charged as rent in the profit and loss account. Okay. Priyanka says, Josh, okay. Just says Priyanka, okay. Fine. We are done. It is checked. The rent is being paid as per the rent agreement. Suddenly, while carrying out other procedures, Josh remembers that his uncle has a factory in the same area. Same as the building, something else. But he is paying a rent of 10,000 per month. A rent of 10,000 per month. पूछा था कभी चचा आप कितना पे करते हैं? And चचा said मैं 10,000 पे करता हूँ rent का. And he said उन्होंने भी उस टाइम पता किया था when he was looking for factory in that particular area, the rate of rent was near about 10,000 to 20,000 ranging. Why is this company paying 50,000? Is the company availing any other facility or go down or somewhere else? So the work is not limited to just checking the documents and telling them. Here it comes the auditor's sixth sense. You are not just limited to the books. Here it is where comes your sixth sense, the auditor's sense. He might not be a bloodhound, he is a watchdog, but an intelligent watchdog. So Josh asked Priyanka, मेरे uncle की भी factory यहाँ पे है, but वो 10,000 pay करता है. Had it been 15,000, okay, still fine. Had it been 20,000, okay, we could understand. But 5 times 50,000, too excessive rent being paid. You'll ask the management of the reasons of such higher rent being paid as compared to the industry trend, as compared to the area trend. वहां एरिया में अगर 10,000, 15,000 का रेंट चल रहा है तो वो 50,000 कैसे पे कर रहे हैं? What could be the reasons? If you are satisfied with the reasons, Josh and Priyanka will record it in their audit file. But if you are not satisfied with the reasons, they'll also record it in the audit file and they will bring it to their principal's notice. Or suppose I'm their principal, they'll bring it to my notice. So this is the point. And we ask them, they give this reason, which we find to be illogical. We feel that this is an excessive payment. It is a fake payment just to reduce the profit so that they have to pay less taxes. So where did the analytical procedure part came? When they compared, when just made the comparison with the industry norms. See? If CA Amar checks in detail the monthly rent payments, he may find that such payments are consistent with the rent agreement. Ye part to theek hai. No issue with that. And the same is getting reflected in the rent agreement. Here, CA Amar may not be able to find out the inconsistency of the rent payment with respect to rent payment prevalent in similar industry for rent of the similar location. So there is consistency with the rent agreement that has been entered into between the two parties, the company and the landlord. But that chartered accountant is not able to find the inconsistency with the industry trend. So he applies analytical procedures. What is the analytical procedure? Comparison. What is the analytical procedure? Comparison. And do you know what it is known as? Can anybody tell me? If we compare the credentials within the same firm, this comparison is known as what? And if we compare it with other firms in the industry, what is that known as? Can anybody tell me? Definitely, Geet, this is going to be the only reason a related party would have been involved. So just tell me, if you compare the credentials within the firm, two figures, two facts within the firm, what is this comparison known as? And if you compare it with the other firms in the industry, what is that known as? Come on. Very good, Anish. Very good. Oh. Okay, so that is known as intra-firm comparison. Intra-firm comparison. If I compare the facts and figures within the firm with respect to previous quarter, with respect to previous year, within XYZ Limited, one period's credentials with other periods credentials. But if I compare these payments or credentials with another firm in the industry, that is known as inter. That is known as inter-firm comparison. I compare the same expense, same payment of XYZ Limited with another company, ABC Limited. This is known as inter-firm comparison. Okay. Good. Chaliye. So what is the meaning of analytical procedures? As per the standard on auditing, SA 520. So what is the number? 520. 520. The term analytical procedure means evaluation of financial information. Evaluate करना किसी financial information को through analysis of plausible relationships. So what is the meaning of plausible? You know? Reasonable. Okay. Relevant. So you have to learn this word. Try to write this word in your definition because this is as per SA 520. So I've told you the meaning. Plausible means which can be connected, which can be related. There is a logic of using both of them, finding a relation between those figures. If they are not related, there is no purpose. If you are comparing the salaries to the debtors, what is the relation between them? Why do you even need such a comparison? How are salaries related to debtors even? Okay. So plausible relationships among both financial and non-financial data. Financial, that is in monetary value. Non-financial, it could be numbers, it could be qualitative, but that doesn't actually reflect in your financial statements. It just supports the financial statements. Okay. I hope the meaning of plausible is clear. Okay. Surely, let's move ahead. So what does it say? Analytical procedures also encompass such investigation as is necessary of identified fluctuations or relationships that are inconsistent with other relevant information or that differ from expected values. So identified fluctuation in case of non-financial data, what was the identified fluctuation? 20% of the cameras were not working. When we went there, we expected, okay, 20% of the cameras would not have been working. But what did we find? 60% of the cameras are not working. So when the same happens with financial data as well, this is what analytical procedures are there. Form a part of our audit procedures. So point-wise, let me change the color for you people. Okay, let us take this color. So point wise, analytical procedure means evaluations of financial information through analysis of plausible relationship among both financial and non-financial data. So what does it say? Let us understand the plausible relationship between financial and non-financial data. It says total wages paid. So it says the financial data would be wages paid per person, and non-financial data would be number of workers employed. So this is what it would say. So finding a relationship, there is a plausible, reasonable relationship. What is the financial data? The financial data is, see, this is the formula: total wages, wages per worker, total number of workers. So this is your financial data. This is a non-financial data. It doesn't mean that if it is a number, it would be financial. Plausible relationship between them, because if we use the relationship between them, we get total wages. We will ask for this from the client company. Give us this, and we'll check whether total wages debited into a profit and loss account are as per our calculation or not. Okay. So this would be total wages, right? Chali, let's move ahead. Now this is important. What does analytical procedures include? So analytical procedures include the consideration of comparison. Kiska comparison? Entities' financial information. Just with practice, you'll get to know usually financial data is one which is reflected there in the statements. Non-financial data is just supplementary. Okay. With practice, many examples you'll be able to differentiate. It is not that important, Abhi. You need to understand the relationship. So comparison of the entity's financial information with consideration of relationships. So there was this relationships, number of workers, relationship with wages, direct relationship, and other procedures. What other procedures could the auditor carry out? So the first thing is analytical procedures include comparison of entities' financial information. Now that comparison could be interfirm, intrafirm. You have to consider the relationships. As I told you, there is no relationship between debtors and salary paid. Okay. So there should have been a relationship. The things you are comparing, the elements you are comparing, and what procedures you, other procedures are included. Like there is trend analysis, there is, as somebody told me, time series, interpolation, extrapolation, other statistical techniques. So these form the term analytical procedures, right? Let me show you something. Okay, so who wants to own a company today? Fine. Let me show you. So there is this company by the name of Tea and Cookies Private Limited. Sub company own karna chahte hain. Huh? Let us take Anish. Okay. So this is Anish's company, Tea and Cookies Private Limited. Okay. Everybody is on board. I'll take only one. Anish, Varsha, Danyanesh. They are a part of the board of directors. Okay. So Josh, Ayush, Josh. Okay. Let's Josh be the auditor. And Ayush, Danyanesh, Varsha and Anish. Jyoti. Okay, fine. Fine. That's it. 5 directors bahut hai. So these are the directors of Tea and Cookies Private Limited. This is our company for the day. They make tea and cookies, registered at Kanpur, right? So this is their profit and loss account. As you can see, the turnover. This is the way you prepare the trading and profit and loss account, right? So there is this trading account. We have this profit and loss account. You can see the expenses, right? I hope you can all see this. I have zoomed in. Okay, Priyanka, you are already in the audit team. You are accompanying Josh as the audit team part. चलिए, so analytical procedures का मतलब क्या था? What do they include? Comparison of entities financial information. So क्या comparison entity की financial information का? देखिए, for example, I'm comparing the sales and the GP. So what would I get? The GP ratio. I could compare the GP ratio financial year 21-22 and financial year 2021. Is there an increase? Is there a decrease? Or no increase or decrease? So that is a comparison. All agree? Okay. All agree that is a comparison. Understood? Comparison of the entity's financial information with consideration of relationships. Hiral, pay attention, you will understand now. With consideration of relationships. See, how is GP ratio calculated? Sorry. GP by sales into 100. So there is this relationship. GP ratio and GP has a relationship with the sales. We can find a relationship between this. Okay. Chaliye. Plus various other procedures. So what could be the various other procedures? So what procedures could be there? Like you are comparing the GP ratio. Then you will see how are the direct expenses behaving, how stock movement involved in comparing GP ratio. Is there any increase in the sales? To check that, you'll apply different audit procedures. You will make a trend analysis of the sales. How are the sales? How is the turnover moving? Upward direction, constant, downward direction, decrease, increase. So these are the other procedures. I hope with this example, it is clear that what does this chart mean? Comparison of the entity's financial information with consideration of relationships plus various other procedures is equal to analytical procedures. Right? Okay, good. Let's move ahead. Hiral, I hope it's clear now. You are not able to understand? Okay. Examples of analytical procedures. What is that? Comparable information for prior periods. So you can compare the information for prior periods. So in this example, yes, the relationship can be anything. Financial, non-financial, financial, non-financial, non-financial, non-financial. Anyway around. Yes, Pranav, it's good. Fine. Comparable information of prior periods. As I told you, if I'm comparing the sales of 21-22 with the sales of 2021. So it says CA is on audit and उसने देखा that the traveling expenses at present amount to 2.5 lakhs. पिछले साल they were 2 lakhs. There is an increase of 25% in the traveling expense. So he may compare such percentage increase with the trend of earlier several years. So is the increase being consistent? There was a 20% increase, then there was a 22% increase, then again 21, 23, 25% increase now. So the trend is increasing of traveling expenses, although he'll check other financial, non-financial information as well. So why are the traveling expenses increasing? Because they keep on doing tours, marketing tours, more salesmen employed. And what could be the signal of that? What could be the signal that if they are incurring travel expenses as an increasing trend, sales would also have been increasing? Right? So this would be related somewhere to anything in the happening in the organization. For example, you can see this. If I show you, okay. See. So let me show you the next year. Okay, see. This is a next year to Tea and Cookies Private Limited. So we can see over here traveling expenses. If it is there, okay, it is there. So the last time you can see traveling expenses figures are in 1,000. So 37.37. It is somewhere around 37,000. The figures are in thousands, right? So it is somewhere around 37,000. And this is around 9,000. So in 2021, the company incurred traveling expenses of somewhere approximately 10,000. Here, somewhere around, I'll take approximations 40,000. 4 times increase. I hope you all can see 4 times increase. Okay. Now, what would I do? I would see if the turnover has also increased, because the traveling expenses increase means they are making efforts. The company's management, the employees are making efforts to take the company to, I would say, increase the sales of the company. Like, how would the revenue be generated? How would they increase the revenue? By making more sales. They cannot increase the selling price just in a day. They'll have to work more, right? Capture more market and increase their sales. So if it is an increase of 4 times in the traveling expenses, as an auditor, I would check, let me see their sales. If there is an increase in the sales, this expense is justified. So let me check the sales, right? So let us check the sales. Oh my God, see this, the sales. Somewhere around 3 crores. This is in 1,000. I'm telling you again, somewhere around 3 crore it is. And now it has crossed even 6.5 crores. Sales have almost doubled. Sales have almost doubled, more than double. Traveling expenses justified. So as an auditor, my traveling expenses are justified. I hope that is clear. Comparable information of prior periods. So what does it say? Hum analytical examples of analytical procedures where we can compare. So where do you compare? You compare information for prior periods within the company. The second is, what do you compare next? You compare anticipated results of the entity, such as budgets or forecasts or expectations of the auditor, such an estimation or depreciation. For example, this is my profit and loss for the year. So I had, the company had estimated that we'll be able to make sales of 6 crores. In 2021, our sales was 3 crores, and they had projected they would work more and they will be able to achieve a figure of 6 crore sales. See, they surpassed their expectations, their budgeted sales. They have made a sales of 6.6 crores. So this is also a comparison. The auditor can check this as well. If they could have projected a sale of 6 crores, but they could make only 4 crore sales, the auditor would ask them, on what basis did you project 6 crore sales? And you are just making 4 crores. Like this happened in the COVID period, the financial years of the financial year 2021 lockdown situation, businesses were affected. So every client company would have told that lockdown. This did not, if they had projected their sales to be 6 crores for financial year 2021 before Corona happened, before that situation. So the pandemic situation made it worse and they could generate only 4 crores revenue, sales. So this is a justified reason on being asked by the auditor. Right? So this is what is another thing. Now, similar industry information such as comparison of the entity's ratio of sales to accounts receivables, debtors turnover ratio, with industry averages or with other entities of comparable size in the industry. You could check their debtors ratio. For example, we have ratios over here. See, what do we have? Ratios over here. We have calculated the different ratios of trade, tea and cookies private limited. See here, if you could see, there is this trade receivables turnover ratio. From 2.18, it has increased to 2.29. Now, just a small increase. So auditor, it is upon the auditor's subjective if he wants to inquire of this increase or not. If there is a sudden increase or decrease in any ratio, he'll definitely ask. But this is comparably fine, right? This is of the previous year and this is of the current year. Okay. So what is the next example? So this is where the comparisons could be made. So the comparisons, what we have learned, prior period, projections. Projections means budgets, interfirm with the industry. So comparisons कहाँ कर सकते हैं आप? Prior period की information के साथ same firm की, projections के साथ same firm की, industry की दूसरी firms के साथ. Okay? And what is else? See, they have shown you the GP. Inventory turnover, gross margin, client का 2.8 है और 2.9 है 2021 का. इंडस्ट्री का 3.1 है और 2.8 है 2021 का. ये जीपी है, ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट है, ग्रॉस मार्जिन. सो इंडस्ट्री के साथ हम कंपेयर कर रहे हैं. 2021 का देखिए मिलता है ऑलमोस्ट. So this is what interfirm comparisons is as far as concerned. So various methods may be used to perform analytical procedures. So they have summarized it over here. What are they saying? Comparison kahan kar sakte hain? This is very important. This part is very important from examination question point of view. If you could explain it with examples in your answer, you'll get good marks. Comparison of client and industry data interfirm. Comparison of client data with similar prior period data. The sales, the turnover of first quarter of this year compared with turnover of same quarter of previous year. If you remember, in accounts, you would get that sales ratio, time ratio, profit, and that pre and post incorporation periods. You would do this now with similar prior period data. And in the case of claim of insurance, loss of profit policy, यही करते हैं आप उसमें. पिछले साल में इस क्वार्टर में क्लाइंट का इतना सेल था, इस बार डिसरप्शन की वजह से इतना इफेक्ट हुआ है. तो फॉर्मूले में आप लोग यही यूज करते हैं, यही कंपैरिजन यूज करते हैं और ऑडिटर इन्हीं प्रोसीजर्स को यूज करके चेक करता है. Comparison of client data with client determined expected. This is projections. Client data with auditor determined predicted. Auditor ने अपनी स्टडी से क्या निकाला? What did the auditor find? What should have been the turnover this year as per the trend is concerned? Comparison of client data with expected result using non-financial data. So one 2, 3, 4, 5 types of comparisons they have shown you. Okay. Exactly, Sneha, right. Yes, Geet, very good. Ayush, I've just taken an example. I just give you an example. Definitely, some other factors would also be involved in case of increase in sales and to compare it to traveling expenses. I just took it as an example. Okay, just would say a simple example. If I would involve other variables within this example, you guys will get confused. So I'm not involving any other variable in the equation, only x and y. Okay. Okay, chaliye, let's move ahead. Okay, so essay 520 related with essay 315 520 deals with the auditor's use of analytical procedures as substantive procedures. I told you what are substantive procedures. When we use them to check, to vouch, to verify the balances, the profit and loss items. See, the test of details is basically test of transactions in profit and loss account. And test of balances is the balances outstanding as on the last date in the balance sheet. So substantive audit procedures include checking these. And when you use analytical procedures as audit procedures, they become substantive analytical procedures. Okay? They could be used near the end of the audit, while the auditor is, they could be used in the planning stage as well, during the audit, and when you complete the audit. So if you want to use analytical procedures as we have done, preliminary risk assessment, 315 also contains that. And 330 tells us whatever risk you have found, you have assessed, now how to deal with it, what should be your audit procedures. Okay, so this is the objectives of the auditor as per essay 520 to obtain relevant and reliable audit evidence, design and perform analytical procedures near the end of the audit. Quite simple, you can read that. We will move ahead. Purpose and timing of analytical procedures. Let us read this. Purpose and timing of analytical procedures. So, analytical procedures use comparisons and relationships. We have done this to assess whether account balances or other data appear reasonable. For example, a relationship that exists between certain balances included in the balance sheet and the statement of profit and loss, comparing them with those that existed in the same set of balances in the previous year. So what does the balance sheet give you? Let us take an example. Debtors. What does the statement of profit and loss give you? Sales. Is there a plausible relation between them? Definitely. These are all credit sales. These are wholesales. So we'll get the credit sales from these sales and compare them with the debtors. Get ratios. We have established a ratio from an element of the profit and loss statement and an element of the balance sheet. And we'll do the same for any of the previous years and compare them. And we'll check for the differences if we find the trend any. So what exactly other analytical procedures are? For example, you check the physical balance of the assets. Furniture is being shown at 20,000 rupees, 2 lakh rupees. We'll check the furniture physically. Or bank statements, external confirmation from the debtors and the creditors, reconciliations, right? Outstanding income and expenses by preparing reconciliations, the prepaid expenses, the outstanding salaries, you'll inquire of the employees, the prepaid income or the advance income. Okay. So this is where the purpose of analytical procedure finds place. Okay, this is all examples we have done. You can read that. The overall test can be extended for making interform and intraform comparisons. You can also compare. So this is all the example of comparisons. You can also compare the balances as on the statement of profit with that of the previous year. I told you we compared the traveling expenses. We could find the reasons for increase or decrease in the amount of profits of those years. How are these affecting the profits? Then what else is there? By setting up certain expenses ratios on the basis of balances. Net operating profit ratio. Ratio of direct expenses to total expenses. Ratio of administrative expenses to total expenses. Ratio of selling expenses to sales. Ratio of administrative expenses to cost of production or cost of goods sold. You will compare them with the same ratios of the previous year, and you can ask for, investigate any increase or decrease in the expected value, expected range as per the trend. You could find many reasons. One of the reasons during the previous years, COVID, there was a fire in the factory. A new product, technologically advanced product has come in the market, and we are trying to survive. We are trying to shut down our old product development and engaging technology, in-house research and development expenditure. So if the auditor finds the difference, increase or decrease, to be material, the auditor would ascertain the reasons. पहले वो खुद निकालेगा reasons, assess करेगा, inquiries करेगा, and he will check if there is no manipulation or window dressing to inflate or suppress profits. चलिए suppress profits तो मुझे समझ में आता है. Suppress मतलब profits कम दिखाने के लिए, inflate मतलब profits ज्यादा दिखाने के लिए than actual. Suppress profits तो मुझे समझ में आता है. Taxes कम pay करने, so they don't want to pay much of the taxes, so they resort to window dressing or manipulation and they suppress the profits. Tell me, why would any company would want to inflate its profits? Why? What could be the reason? There is a reason at a macro level, at micro level as well. So anybody could tell me, why would they want to increase their profits? Very good, Danyanesh. That is the reason at smaller level. Bank finance. Because bank wants to know their financial health. Bank wants to know what is their capacity of earning. Will they be earning really good so that they could pay us back our interest, our installment, and then they'll be still left with some money of their own. So bank finances. What else? To lure investors. Very good, Akash. Very good, Ayush. IPO, market capitalization. Could anybody give me an example of a latest company which was in news for its inflated profits or value? Investor confidence, share price. Very good. Very good. Could anybody give me the latest example, please? It was in news since such a longer time. So these are all examples you can read on your own. Okay, Pranav. Very good, Ayush. Ayush Jha. Good, good. Varsha Murjani, good. No, Akash, it's like the Jash, huh? Kind of. Jash, kind of. Yes, Ayush, very good. Okay, chaliye. So this para over here, it is really important. आज मैं आप लोगों को पीपीटी से नहीं पढ़ा रहा हूँ. आज मैंने एक नया तरीका यूज किया just to make sure that you guys should know how to read from the study material as well. What is more important, what is to be highlighted, and what else to do. Okay. So thus it is important to note that analytical procedures may help identify the existence of unusual transactions or events. Unusual transaction or event क्या था हमारी पहली एग्जांपल में? The rent was being paid 5 times of the industry trend. Unusual amounts, unusual ratios, unusual trends. Unusual matlab which don't seem to be usual, which don't seem to be normal. Not normal, right? Unusual or unexpected relationships that are identified by the auditor may assist him in identifying the risk of material misstatement, profits inflated, profits suppressed is an example of material misstatement, and they further could lead to the unearthing of a fraud. Good, Jyoti. Good, 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 good. Chaliye, let's move ahead. Timing of analytical procedures, you can get it done during the planning phase, the testing phase, the completion phase. When you are planning for your audit, when you are testing the controls, or when you are completing your audit and just in the process of preparing your audit report. So how do we use them in planning the audit? So in the planning stage, analytical procedures assist the auditor in understanding the client's business. SA 315. Identify areas of potential risk. SA 330. By indicating aspects and developments of the entity's business of which was previously unaware. So this information helps in determining the nature of audit procedures, when to perform such audit procedures, and how much such audit procedures need to be performed. So we have read this that they use both financial data and non-financial data. Number of employees, square feet of spelling space, volume of goods produced. Just remember what we are doing in your syllabus. Departmental accounts. You perform this. Claim of insurance. See, I'll write it down for you so that it will help. Departmental accounts. Right? Pre-post. You apply this over there. Then your insurance chapter. You apply analytical procedures while solving your question. In costing, contract costing. And then process costing. You use this. Then in your calculating the machine overhead rate. Right? Then in service costing. Marginal costing. Budgetary control. And the most important, the most simple, cost sheet. So these are the chapters where you are indirectly using analytical procedures only while solving your questions. Right? Chaliye, let's move ahead. जस्ट रिमेंबर, जब भी आप एनालिटिकल प्रोसीजर्स पढ़ें तो इन चैप्टर्स को ध्यान में रखें. आप लोगों ने चैप्टर्स किए हैं, जस्ट मेक श्योर दैट ये चैप्टर्स के जो आपने ट्विस्ट देखे हैं सब आप लोगों ने सॉल्व किए हैं, वो आप साथ में रखें. विल गेट अ लॉट ऑफ कॉन्फिडेंस इन अंडरस्टैंडिंग दिस चैप्टर, राइट? Yeah, Jyoti, whole syllabus covered. So I'm just trying to make you find plausible relationships between different subjects of your syllabus. You need not go out and find for examples. This is within your syllabus, and it will promote a healthy relationship among your subject. चलिए, तो जो लोग मुझे पूछ रहे थे, people who were asking me, sir, what are substantive procedures and all, let us see what are substantive procedures. The auditor's substantive procedures at the assertion level. What is assertion level? Come on, you have read it in chapter 1. What is an assertion? Tell me, what is an assertion? You have read assertions? Valuation, completeness, rights and obligations, these disclosures, presentation, these are assertions. I suppose you have read it in your chapter 1. Let me show you what is the meaning of an assertion. This is an assertion. The electricity expenses incurred during the year were 13,419. This is an assertion, right? They're telling us about the amount of electricity expenses, disclosure, as well as we'll check its completeness. How will we check its completeness? By checking the bills paid. Presentation, obviously it would find a place in profit and loss. Completeness, let us check for any outstanding expenses. So these are assertions. Assertions with respect to their valuation. We'll check it from the bills, completeness assertion. Then their presentation, they have to be presented in the profit and loss. Then their completeness or their matching would say that outstanding expenses. So this is kind of assertion. Okay, this is meant by assertions. You will read the same in your chapter 9. So auditor's substantive procedures at the assertion level may be test of details or a combination of both substantive analytical procedures. The decision about which audit procedure to perform, including whether to use analytical procedures, is based on auditor's judgment. The auditor may inquire of the management as to the availability and reliability of information needed to apply such procedures. So, what is test of details? जो मैंने अभी इलेक्ट्रिसिटी एक्सपेंसेस के साथ किया, जो मैंने उसके टेस्ट किए, that is test of details. और जो मैं कंपेयर करूंगा इलेक्ट्रिसिटी एक्सपेंसेस को प्रायर पीरियड के साथ, इंडस्ट्री के साथ, वो मैं substantive analytical procedures यूज कर रहा हूं. So when I checked at the assertion level the value, the presentation, and the completeness of electricity expenses, that was test of details, right? And when I applied my procedures to check their genuinity, comparison, trends, formulae, ratios, that is analytical procedures. When I do the same with balance sheet item, that is known as test of balances. So, test of details, substantive analytical procedures, either single or a combination of both is what is substantive procedures of the auditor. Exactly. You all are very much clear with the concept of assertions. Okay. Factors to be considered for substantive audit procedures. So what are the factors to be considered for substantive audit procedure? These are the factors. What are this? Availability of data. What data you have available with you. The client is supposed to provide you with the data. You have to segregate and disaggregate the data accordingly. What type of accounts are you going to check? What is the source of such information? If there are any predictions, you could predict anything about any expense or any balance. What is the nature of assertion you are taking up? And what is the inherent risk or what can go wrong? That is, obviously, it is usual that it will go wrong, the inherent risk, which is already there. And you have to understand what risk is already there. So let us understand these factors one by one. Availability of data. The availability of reliable and relevant, which is of use to you, to be used by you. And reliable means you can trust the source, the genuinity of that data. ये सही है. Disaggregation means तोड़ना. As layered as you can break the data into different layers. The degree of disaggregation in available data can track the degree of its usefulness in detecting misstatements. जितना varied होगा. Account type. Substantive analytical procedures are more useful for certain type of accounts than for others. Usually, income statement accounts are those accounts where substantive analytical procedures are used the most, because what do? They reflect accumulated transactions over a period. Whereas the balance sheet represents the balances at one point of time during the year, at a point in time, and needs to be checked upon thoroughly. See this. Now, if you could see trading interest throughout the year on their late payments, this company Tea and Cookies Private Limited has paid a sum of 11,18,266 as trading interest. So this has accumulated throughout the year, day by day, month by month, throughout the 12 months, right? So you can apply procedures over here like quarterly, trend, monthly. You can compare it with the previous year, industry, right? Rates of interest. Now, if you come to the balance sheet, see over here. In the balance sheets, the balance sheet figures are all as on one date. Closing date of 31st March. They haven't accumulated over the period. So it's a bit difficult to apply analytical procedures to these balances, like long-term borrowings. What you can compare them with the previous year, that is it. Or some other ratios or considerations or relationships. But analytical procedures find more use in the profit and loss items because the profit and loss contains items for a period. 1st April 21 to 31st March 22. Okay. Chali. Source. Now source. Some classes of transactions tend to be more predictable because they consist of numbers, similar transactions, whereas some transactions are of known routine nature and they find they are categorized as significant classes of transactions. Therefore, they cannot be predicted. For example, we would see the example. Here we have source of data. See, source of data and predictability. Here it is. Transactions of routine nature, like transaction related to sales, purchases, are predictable and repetitive in nature, so can be efficiently applied. However, significant class transactions are those classes of transaction in a company's operations that are key to the financial statement and are not recurring. Recurring, non-recurring. The simple word recurring, non-recurring. Like research and advertisement is not of a routine nature, therefore more difficult to predict that what could be its quantum in the future. Predictability. Some substantive analytical processes are more appropriate when an account balance or relationship between items of data are predictable. For example, you can predict the relationship between sales and cost of sales, between trade receivables and cash receipts. If your debtor's trade receivable balance from the last year has increased, and this increase is more than increase in the in the sales, you will understand that credit sales have been made more than the cash sales. The debtors have increased from the previous year. The sales have not got increased that much. So the increase in debtors is more than the increase in sales. You'll understand that cash receipts are less. More credit sales have been made during the year. Indirect relationship. Now coming to nature of assertion. The nature of assertion related with profit and loss items is completeness or valuation, right? Rights and obligations are related with balance sheet items. So we can predict the completeness or valuation measurement occurrence of the item, but rights obligations is something which is where analytical procedures don't find any such use. Because you have to check whether this thing, if you want to check whether fixed assets belong to the company or not, you'll check the ownership agreement, you'll check the invoices. So there is no use of analytical procedures. But if you want to find whether depreciation have been properly calculated, you will have to refer the previous year's depreciation, the company's policy of charging depreciation and everything. What can go wrong? When we design the audit procedures, what can go wrong? We consider the nature of risk of material misstatement. So when inherent risk is higher, matlab we cannot avoid that risk. We may design test of details in such a manner where we'll work more. There will be more work and we'll be doing extra procedures to address that high inherent risk. They have given us an example. Let us see that example. When side agreements with respect to revenue recognition have been identified as a significant or fraud risk, it is unlikely that an analysis of sales compared to cash receipts or cost of sales would appropriate to respond to that risk. Quite simple example, right? Let's move ahead. In case you are not able to understand any of the examples where there is normal English, I'm moving ahead. Just let me know. Right? Just let me know if you're not able to understand an example. Let me check your doubts, some of the doubts first. Okay. Disaggregation. Karthik, disaggregation means breaking down the information into various categories and subcategories. Okay. For example, there is just a head of administrative expenses or miscellaneous expenses in the profit and loss account. If there is a head of miscellaneous expenses and that accounts for more than 5% or 10% of the total expenses, I would ask for its detail. I will disaggregate it. I cannot compare miscellaneous expenses that I would say with that much of surety, right? So I'll always have to break down the miscellaneous expenses into various categories. What is included in miscellaneous expenses, and then compare the information of both the periods. Hiral, okay, Hiral. Side agreements means that there are some other agreements, collateral agreements. You understand collateral? Collateral kind of agreements along with the primary contracts. So there could be a fraud risk with those agreements as well. So it is unlikely that an analysis of sales compared to cash receipts or cost of sales would be appropriate to respond to that risk, because usually side agreements are kind of other incomes, not directly related to revenue. Let me show you side agreements. You can see over here, like this interest income, rent income, not directly related. If there is an element of fraud in it, how can ratios from these, comparisons from these will be able to address the frauds over here? That is inherent risk. If you're moving over here, for these, we have to perform different analytical procedures. Here, inherent risk means the risk which is going to be there. You might have understand the inherent risk in chapter of 4, risk assessment, internal control. Inherent risk is the risk which ought to be there. वो रहेगा ही रहेगा, तुम जितना भी ट्राई कर लो वो तुम उसे कम नहीं कर सकते. It is embedded over there. Okay. चलिए. Any doubts till now? We can take a break. You can ask for any doubts till now. We will definitely take a break. Please let me know. If you want to take a break, we can take a break and then we'll come back and start with the various techniques available as substantive analytical procedures. Very easy. Speak up, guys. Pranav says no need of break. Okay, Pranav. I've got one wood, no need of break. If any of you wants break, just put it over there. Otherwise, I'll keep on continuing. Okay, fine. ठीक है, चलिए. So techniques available as substantive analytical procedures. What are the techniques? Trend analysis. You all understand what is trend analysis, right? Studying trends. You all used to make such graphs. जब हम छोटे बच्चे थे, अभी भी these are the various graphs you will make. These are the trends, right? So with respect to any of the item, sales, salaries, profits. This is an upward moving trend. This is a downward trend, decreasing trend, and this is an irrational trend. We'll take break in 10 minutes, okay? That is trend analysis, ratio. Trend analysis, you can also ratio analysis. Financial management chapter, ratio analysis, module 1. Do I need to elaborate on it? No. Reasonableness test. Reasonableness test is where you cannot make comparisons or you cannot establish relationships like trends or ratios, like in the case of non-financial information. Definitely we'll take a break of 10 minutes in the next 10 minutes. And structural modeling. What is structural modeling? Have you guys done linear programming problems? Linear programming? What was that? 4x plus 3y is equal to 12. 2x minus 5y is equal to 10. Solve these equations simultaneously to get the value of x and the value of y. That's structural modeling using various statistical techniques like linear programming. So you have done everything. चलिए. Trend analysis is a commonly used technique It is the comparison of current data with the prior period balance or with a trend in two or more prior period. So you can compare the trend with interfirm trend, intrafirm trend, whatever you want. And for the current year, whether the current balance of the account moves in line with the trend. Have you done time series analysis, trend line method, interpolation, extrapolation, trend line method? If you guys don't know about time series, interpolation, extrapolation, please don't be worried. These are statistical techniques. Those who have done it, they might relate to it. Otherwise, just simply understand that if your current balance of that particular item is in line with the trend. For example, the trend says the sales are increasing at the rate of 10%, or the rent is increasing at the rate of 10%. Initially, it was 10,000. Now this year it is 11,000. Now this year it is 12,100. And suddenly, in the fourth year, it is near 15,000. Or say 20,000. So this is not in with the previous trend that was of 10%. So what is the reason for this current balance not being in line with the trend? So trend analysis implies to analyze account fluctuations by comparing current year to prior information or prior several years. Just super funny, man. फिर वही स्किप कर दिया था पूरा मैथ स्टैट्स लॉजिकल रीजनिंग अच्छा धन्यनेश ने भी स्किप किया था आलोक डजंट रिमेम्बर धन्यनेश से डिलीटेड बाय आईसाइन फाउंडेशन अरे स्कूल टाइम में तो किया होगा इंडेक्स नंबर टाइम सीरीज चलिए कोई बात नहीं ओके सो दैट वाज ट्रेंड एनालिसिस एग्जाम्पल देखिए ट्रेंड एनालिसिस की Auditor may compare the salary paid by the company during the year under audit. Year under audit, let it be 21-22, with the salary paid by the company for several earlier years. मेरी example में क्या था? Rent था, है ना? There may be some percentage increase in the salary expense over the years. However, an unusual increase, जो हमारी example में है rent वाली में, 10% से बल्कि almost 40% के करीब increase. The increase was not in line with the trend. The trend was saying 10%, it was 40%. What? That is an unusual fluctuation. I'll ask for it. Yash and Priyanka would ask for it from the client company. Sir, why is there so much increase in the rent? Have you taken another asset on rent? A room, an office, or a building? Or the property rates have increased so much that the rent rates in the market have increased so much that your rent agreement now has been renewed. So there should be some logical justification to that. Ratio analysis, we all know about this. What is ratio analysis? The ratios we carry out, we calculate. It says the example of GP ratio, right? GP ratio can be compared with the earlier GP ratio of the company of earlier years, or GP ratio of other companies, Interform. Now moving ahead, reasonable test. What are reasonable tests? Unlike trend analysis, this analytical procedure does not rely on events of prior periods, but upon non-financial data for the audit period under consideration. For example, occupancy rates to estimate the rental income, or interest rates to estimate interest income or expense. So what could be the reasonable test? If the interest income has decreased from previous year, interest income has increased from previous years, might be there could be investments with the company, deposits, the RBI reduced the rate. That's why the bank reduced the rate. The RBI increased the rate, therefore banks increase the rate. So they cannot follow any trend, right? These tests are generally more applicable to income statement accounts. Income statement is profit and loss statement. So you have to review the relationship of certain account balances to other balances for reasonableness of amounts, like interest expense against interest bearing obligations. So there could be a trend that there has been an agreement with the lender. It could be any of your friends who has lent you money. Okay, I'll charge interest at the rate of 6% for the time you're using my money, lifetime. So it's just a flat graph, 6% rate of interest. Every year, 6% rate of interest. Flat graph. Or a line graph. So there is no trend. You'll have to check the reasonableness. Raw material consumption to production. Wastage and scrap percentage against production and raw material. This could differ. This could not be following the trend because it depends upon production. Sometimes the quality of raw material, the labor, and the machine capacity, many other factors come into picture. So only trend or ratio would not be able to tell us that thing. Now, structural modeling, I've already told you. Constructing a statistical tool model from financial or non-financial data for prior accounting periods, linear regression, you could understand. Have you done this? Correlation, regression, ये तो किया होगा सबने. Correlation and regression. If you are from foundation route or direct entry वालों ने graduation में किया होगा और foundation वालों ने foundation में किया होगा correlation regression. Statistical structural models, they help us in finding unusual relationships and all. Nice, nice, nice. So the next part is analytical procedures used as substantive tests. So now substantive analytical procedures. How do we use analytical procedures as substantive tests? So using comparisons, ratios, trends in your substantive audit procedure, like applying analytical procedures on your test of details, right? So we'll take this up after the break. It is 7:30. Let us take a break of 10 minutes and we'll be here by 7:40. Yes, sir, but कुछ याद नहीं है. It's fine. इतना याद भी नहीं करना, बस जितना याद करना तुम्हें पता होना चाहिए. कोरिलेशन, रिग्रेशन, लीनियर प्रोग्राम, इसके भरोसे ही मार्क्स आते हैं भाई. बाकी चीजें तो you have to practice a lot, but these are some interesting things. You want to play with numbers and graphs and XY algebra. So these are the things which interest you. So let us take a break, guys. 7:30, and let's be back by 7:45. Okay, let's take a 15 minutes break. Let's Okay, everyone, we are back. So let us move ahead. Analytical procedures used as substantive tests. Are you all here with me? Back? Let me know. Designing and then performing substantive analytical procedures either alone or in combination with test of details. I told you the difference. In accordance with SA 330, the auditor shall determine the suitability of the procedure, whether it is suitable to be used over there in that particular situation, evaluate the reliability of data, develop an expectation. So let us see. To check for profits, whether he can check the sales, yes. To check for profits, whether he needs to check for the capital introduced to check for profits, no. This is not suitable to be used in this current situation when he is checking the sales trend. The profits. Profits is nothing to no relation with the capital, but sales do. Now, sales for reliability of data. From where do he check the sales? He can check the sales from the GST returns, the best source, the invoices as well as the GST returns, to get a reliability of data being provided to him. Develop an expectation that if the sales have been showing and trend of upward moving trend of 20%, the sales in current year would be increasing by approximate 20%. Somewhere between 19 to 20% is fine. He has developed his expectation, the auditor. Determine the acceptable difference. The sales have increased by only 10%. What is the reason? The sales have increased by 30%. What were the initiatives? So determine the acceptable difference. So my acceptable difference was somewhere acceptable. Sorry, this is the next part. Acceptable difference would have been, okay, right. I would agree to an 18% increase, or I would agree to a 20-25% increase. I would agree to it. 4 to 5% is fine with me. Now moving ahead, this is my acceptable difference, tolerable level. Then further, I'll check the differences I've got and what is the reason behind that. Okay. So determine the suitability of a particular substantive analytical procedure for given assertion, taking account of the assessed risk of material misstatement and test of details, as I took the example of sales and capital. Evaluate the reliability of the data from which the auditor's expectation of recorded accounts or ratios is developed, taking account of source, comparability, and nature and relevance of information. I told you, you can check the sales, whether it is reliable or not, from the GST returns filed by the client company. Then develop an expectation of recorded amounts. Like I could see the trend. First, I'll check whether I can use analytical procedure or not. Then I'll check the data's source, whether the data with me is correct or genuine or not. Then I'll develop an expectation. I've applied the analytical procedure and develop an expectation, the test. I would have to, the increase in sales should be somewhere around 18 to 22% or 23%. Right? Then further, if there is any difference, right, from my expected amount and the actual amount, I should record it and then further investigate. If it is acceptable, I should not investigate further. If it is not acceptable, I'll have to investigate further. There is no sound. Just a second. Mrs. Gomti Krishnan says no sound. Gomti, it's only, I suppose, the voice is audible, everyone? Just let me know. ठीक है सर, ठीक है. Gomti, please check it at your end, please. Okay. Anuradha says, can you give an example for developing your expectations? Anuradha gave the example, right? See. The example. From the past trend, I got to know that the sales are increasing at the rate of 20%. So this year also I expected the sales would, for example, the sales last year were 2 crores with an increase of 20% as per the past year's trend, 5 years trend, an average of 20% I'm getting. So my expectation this year would be an increase of 20%, 2.40 crores. Somewhere around this, approximate, more or less somewhere around this figure. That is my expectation development, developing the expectations. I hope, Anuradha, it's clear now. Suitability of a particular analytical procedure for given assertion. Okay, so this is could be an exam question as well. How do you determine the suitability of analytical procedures for given assertions? So how do we? Substantive analytical procedures are generally more applicable to large volumes of transactions that tend to be predictable over time. So they have to be predictable. The trend, there should be some trend, there should be some prediction probability there. You will be able to predict it. The application of planned analytical procedures based on expectations that relationships among data exist. As I told you, there is no relationship between the capital introduction and the profit. And continue in the absence of known conditions to the contrary. That there is a relationship between two elements. That relationship continues throughout unless and until there is a condition to the contrary. Condition to the contrary का क्या मतलब होता है? जो यूजुअल है उससे अलग कोई कंडीशन ना लग जाए, उससे ऑपोजिट जाने के लिए कुछ कंडीशन ना लग जाए. That is condition to the contrary. However, the suitability of a particular analytical procedure will depend upon the auditor's assessment of how effective it will be in detecting a misstatement, either individually or in aggregation. In some cases, even an unsophisticated predictive model may be effective as an analytical procedure. They are giving us an example. What is that example? If an entity has a known number of employees at fixed rates of pay throughout the period, it may be possible for the auditor to use this data to estimate a total payroll cost. Quite simple. Simply multiply with a higher degree of accuracy. So the use of widely recognized trade ratios such as profit margins for different types of retail entities can often be used effectively substitute analytical procedures to provide evidence to support the reasonableness of recorded amounts. So it says, so sometimes unsophisticated predictive model. What could be predictive? There are fixed rates. We just need to know the number of workers and we can check the pay. Right? In retail sector, where the consumer is the end user, they sell directly to the consumer. There is the end of the chain. The margins are usually uniform throughout the industry. So they can be used. There is no need to calculate the trend or something like this. What is the industry margin? You can use it directly to check the profits or other margins. Okay. Different types of analytical procedures provide different levels of assurance. Analytical procedures involving the prediction of total rental income on a building divided into apartments, taking the rental rates, the number of apartments, vacancy rates, can provide persuasive evidence and may eliminate the need for further verification by means of tests. So if we have this much of information, we need not delve deeper into test of details. What is the rent structure? How much rent A pays, B pays, C pays? We have this much information with us, so we need not delve much deeper into analytical procedures. We can directly apply some normal procedure, formula, multiplication and all. Now calculation, वो different situation बता रहा है. Calculation and comparison of gross margin percentages as a means of confirming a revenue figure may provide less persuasive evidence, but may provide useful corroboration if used in combination with other procedures. Corroboration means, you might have read this word corroboration, supplement, right? To supplement something, to provide support to something, to provide support to your other evidences. Corroboration. So if you are calculating gross margin percentages and from GP, you are calculating that the turnover seem to be same. It says you calculate GP from turnover. You don't work backwards. In questions, you work backwards, but in practical life, you cannot just assume sales from GP. For question sake, you need it in your mathematical formulas, right? That is what they wanted to say. Now, he gives us an example. For example, if controls over sales order processing are weak, the auditor may place more reliance on test of details rather than on substantive analytical procedures for assertions related to receivables. So it says controls are weak over sales order processing. You process the order received, converted into sales. He finds that it is weak, that they are not being taken care of, recovery process is slow, the goods have not been dispatched, or proper entries are not being made. So auditor says, I'll check the test, or I'll test the details. I'll check the accounts. Rather than going for trend or some ratio analysis or something like this, I'll check the accounts. Okay. Particular substantial analytical procedures may be considered suitable when test of details are performed on the same assertion. For example, when obtaining audit evidence regarding valuation assertion for accounts, receivable balances, debtor balances, the auditor may apply analytical procedures to an aging of customer accounts. So, analytical procedure trend निकाल सकता है, percentage निकाल सकता है. What is the trend of debtors? 6 months to 12 months, more than 12 months, right? Comparison कर सकते हैं previous period के साथ. Rate निकाल सकते हैं, ratio निकाल सकते हैं to total debtors. In addition to performing test of details, तो करना ही करना है. Test of details means transactional audit. More or less, you have to check the accounts, balances, transactions. For example, checking the subsequent cash receipts after the end of the year in the month of April, May, in how much time was the company able to recover the money to determine the collectivity of the receivables. So these are some extra procedures. Test of details is something where you have applied analytical procedures, but sometimes you need to do some extra procedures like in this case, checking subsequent receipts, because analytical procedure would provide corroborative support, supplement. But we need to do some extra procedures to come to a conclusion. Okay. Persuasive means to persuade, to make him believe, right? He gets a belief. Persuasive means a proper logical belief. He'll see. Less persuasive evidence means that to connect the dots. Even by connecting the dots, he is not able to believe that whether this figure is correct or not, and he can just use it as a supplement to his main evidence. Am I clear, Jyoti? Now we come to the reliability of the data. So data is reliable. How do we check? We check by what is the source of information? Is the information comparable? Whether the information is relevant for us, and who has got controls over the preparation of that financial information? Who is making that? Is that department, that team, that person competent enough for preparing the financial information? So reliability of data, right? Whether you can trust on that data provided to you or not. These are some examples which have been given for your clearing. For example, source of information, it says information be more reliable when it is obtained from an independent source outside the entity. External confirmation from debtors, creditor, bank balances confirmation from the bank certificates, bank statements. Comparability of the information available. For example, broad industry data may need to be supplemented to comparable to that of an entity. Specialized products, right? For specialized products, when you can check the industry data, and you can use this industry data in comparison, making comparison to your client's company. Nature and relevance of the information available. Nature means kis tarah ki, what type, and whether it is of use to us or not. For example, budgets have been established as results to be expected rather than as goals to be achieved. See, goals is something which is long term and you aspire to achieve. That budget is something which is practical. So budgets are of relevance for us, not goals. Goals is something which is qualitative, which is something which is aspiring. But budgets give us practicality. Controls of the preparation, review, and maintenance of budgets. Simple. The auditor may consider testing the operating effectiveness of controls, if any, over the entity's preparation of information used by the auditor in performing procedures, whatever data he has got. If the controls are effective, the auditor has greater confidence in the reliability. Okay, there is a different maker-checker concept. People, duties have been segregated. So I feel controls are good. I can rely more on the data provided to me. But if the controls are weak, I'll have to gather extra evidence, additional procedures to increase my trust on the data provided to me or getting it rectified. This is an example you can study. Okay. Now the next is evaluation of whether the expectation is sufficiently precise. Precise means up to the mark for our use. It is not that elaborative and extensive. So matters relevant to the auditor's evaluation of whether the expectation can be developed sufficiently precisely. So whether the auditor, as someone asked me, sir, what is expectation, right? What can the auditor expect? How can the auditor expect? Whether the auditor can expect precisely by using analytical procedures, To what extent of precision? So matters relevant to the auditor's evaluation of whether the expectation can be developed sufficiently precisely to identify a misstatement, whether individually or when all the misstatements aggregated, combined, may cause the whole financial statements to be materially misstated. So how does the auditor develop such expectation? The accuracy with which the expected results of substantive analytical procedures can be predicted. So can the auditor develop such accuracy? For example, the auditor may expect greater consistency in comparing GP margins from one period to another rather than comparing discretionary expenses such as research. He says, I don't want to compare research advertising. This is something which is out of the box for me. I'll compare GP and I'll expect the sales and GP margin accordingly. So this is the auditor's expectation of using GP. Right? Someone asked me what is disaggregation. So how well the auditor can disaggregate the information. Substantive analytical procedures may be more effective when applied to financial information on individual sections of an operation or to components than applying to the entity as a whole. For example, this is XYZ company. It has 3 units, X, Y, Z. So it is better to compare within X, within Y, and within Z first. After then, you can compare within X, Y, Z. Or as I told you, the example of miscellaneous expenses, sundry expenses, disaggregate into different further nature of expenses, T expenses, security guard expenses, right? Stationary expenses, whatever it could be, miscellaneous expenses. Disaggregate. How better, how farther can the auditor disaggregate? Then what do we have? The availability of the information, both financial and non-financial. So the auditor may consider whether financial information such as budgets, forecast, non-financial information such as number of units produced, sold, are they available with him? So if they are available with him, the auditor says, yes, they are available. They have not been estimated or taken haphazardly, so that he will have to make more calculations. If it is easily available with him, he can carry out many analytical procedures. Now, what all we have done till now? Suitability, right? Then reliability of data, suitability of analytical procedure, then whether the data is reliable or not, then whether we can come to development of expectations. Now the last part is, or the part near to is amount of difference of recorded amounts from expected values. So the auditor has an expected range and there is recorded amount in the financial statements. If the difference is acceptable to the auditor, completely fine, the auditor can move ahead. But if the difference is not acceptable, he'll have to obtain more persuasive audit evidence. SA 330. Persuasive evidence means which makes the auditor believe firmly that yes, what has been shown is true and fair or correct. SA 330 says अगर ऑडिटर ने रिस्क ज्यादा हाई असेस किया है तो उसे ज्यादा ऑडिट एविडेंस चाहिए, परसुएसिव, जो उसको बिलीव करने पे मजबूर करे ऑडिट एविडेंस, या अगर उसके ऑपोजिट है तो उसके पास ऑडिट एविडेंस होना चाहिए ये चीज सही नहीं है. सो अकॉर्डिंगली अगर असेस्ड रिस्क इंक्रीज करता है, द अमाउंट ऑफ डिफरेंस कंसीडर्ड एक्सेप्टेबल विदाउट इन्वेस्टिगेशन डिक्रीजेस. इफ द रिस्क इज हाई, tolerable level is low. I suppose you can understand this. If risk is high, as assessed by the auditor, SA 330, right? So tolerable level, acceptable level of deviation would fall. Because risk is high, auditor cannot take the risk of ignoring it. High risk. Auditor will check each and every test of details because now his acceptable level is low. Acceptable level of difference. But if risk is low, his acceptable level is high and he can carry out without further investigation. Exactly, Pranav, exactly. Inverse relationship. So now if he has come to a conclusion that he wants to investigate the results of analytical procedures. So the auditor will have to identify the fluctuations as per SA 520 is formed. If they are inconsistent with other relevant information or differ from expected values, he will investigate. How will he investigate? He'll carry out more procedures, gather more evidence, inquire of the management, communicate with those charged with governance. So how would he investigate? He would inquire of the management and obtaining appropriate audit evidence relevant to management's response. Whatever the management tells him or her, he will obtain appropriate audit evidence with respect to that. And if required, he can perform other audit procedures as necessary. Along with the procedures they have already performed, some additional procedures. When management is unable to provide any explanation or the explanation is not adequate or enough as far as the auditor wanted, he'll do work on his own. He'll not depend upon the management's assertions or what the management has to say. He'll perform more work. More work means if he hasn't checked the invoices, he will check the invoices. If he hasn't done physical verification of the asset, he will physically verify the assets. More work, which he could avoid if he had a stronger confidence on the controls of the organization. But he's not having it. Even if he's not satisfied with the management's answer, so he'll do more work. Right? Analytical procedures that assist when forming an overall conclusion. So this is simple that analytical procedures help us in forming our overall conclusion. This is a part which we'll be doing in CA final, right? But just something which we can read over here is the conclusions drawn from the results of analytical procedures designed and performed in accordance with are intended to corroborate conclusions during the audit of individual components. So you are checking electricity expenses, you are checking traveling expenses, you are checking administrative expenses, you are checking selling and distribution expenses. So if you are applying analytical procedures on those elements of profit and loss, they provide supplementary corroborate audit evidence to if you are checking them in detail, so that the auditor has main as well as supplementary evidence to come to reasonable conclusion. Right? The results of such analytical procedures may identify a previously unrecognized risk of material misstatement. So might be he has not taken care of traveling expenses initially while designing an audit program. But when it came to know that salaries or the traveling expenses seem to be fake, so now he'll be more considerate. He'll be more considering towards payroll expenses or selling and distribution expenses. This was not recognized earlier, but now he has found during the audit while applying procedures that there's seems to be some problem over here. So he can revise his assessment of risk of material misstatement from over here and further revise his audit plan and program. Okay. Moving ahead. Consideration specific to public sector entities. So it says in public sector entities, there is usually not direct relationship between revenue and expenditure. Some expenditures are fixed, even if there is this less turnover, or there is something which is not direct relations are not found in public sector entities. If they have to do some work, they have to do it, whether the sales are increasing or decreasing, they have to do it. Sometimes it happens the fixed assets they are purchasing, they are not capitalizing it as per the law applicable to them. State law, central law applicable to the public sector entities. For example, in railways, single entry system is followed. Right? Sometimes they don't follow that general accounting, but the accounting framework as laid down in the law law governing their operation. So in that case, applying analytical procedures would not be of much use. This is what this last topic has to say. Right? We are done with our chapter of essay 520. Any doubts till now? You can come up with that. Otherwise, I'll take you to the questions asked from this chapter as well as the previous two chapters in your previous exams. Giving you 2 minutes. If you want to ask any doubts, you can. Otherwise, I'll take you to the previous year questions, type of questions asked, and how do you see. These are the ratios. Like we have calculated the ratio for the previous year 21 as well as 22. These are the variations. If there are more variation like this was from 0.09 to it has come to 1.20. 0.550 it has come to 1.81. From 22.17 it has decreased to 19.15. No much variation like this. So how these ratios help us to tell us that where do we need to focus more as an auditor? Where do we need to do our audit procedures more? Okay, what mistakes do students generally make in audit exam? First of all, the mistakes students generally do make in audit exam, writing in general. You assume your audit exam to be like your business studies exam. We need professional writing. I told you using professional terms. I told you make chapter charts, flow charts, professional vocabulary. I told you about the audit words which you need to revise on a daily basis to be used in your answer. Okay? Then don't make khichdi. Don't mix the concepts, but use them to supplement each other, to complement and to supplement the concepts. Whatever examples you study in book, that is completely fine. You can give as an example. Whatever examples we as faculties tell you in general, a lighter example to make you understand some general explanations, don't write as it is in the exams. You are a professional student and professional writing is expected from you. Okay? Fine. So don't write in general. Okay? Try to make points rather than long paras. and study in a proper sequence. For example, as I told you, chapter number 1 to chapter number 4 are basics of audit. Chapter number 5 to chapter number 8 are some tools and techniques. Chapter number 9 to chapter number 13 are applications of audit. So I will always ask that you complete chapter 1 to 4 first. Then you can jumble up between these two categories. If you have done 1 to 4, your concepts are clear. If you haven't done chapter 4, how come will you be able to understand the meaning of risk, inherent risk, inverse risk in chapter number 8? You have to first complete chapter number 1 to 4. This category basics should be finished. Then you can take up chapters side by side from this. You can chapter 5, then you took 11, 10, then you took 6 and all. But further, I would say 1 to 8. This should be done in a sequence. Then 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10 and 11 together, 12 and 13. These chapters you can jumble up. If you want to do 10th first, 11, then 13, 12, you can jumble up. But 1 to 8, you should not jumble up. Follow proper sequence. Write properly. Don't write generally. Give examples. Proper examples as you can. Yes, Hiral, yes. Okay, chaliye. I hope Jash that is clear. Even if you still have any doubts, I'll be taking up the last chapter as well. Chapter number 13, we can discuss over there as well. Chaliye. So let us do thing. This is somewhere correct, incorrect. Look, SA 520's question. SA 520 deals with the auditor's use of analytical procedures as substantive procedures and as procedures near the end of the audit that assist the auditor in preparation of the financial statements. Hanji, correct or incorrect? Come on, correct or incorrect? 2 marks question. SA 520's question, the topic we did today. Read this and tell me whether your answer is correct or incorrect. Answer to part F. This is my 22 question. Write the reason as well. Why correct, why incorrect. Don't write only correct or incorrect. Okay, Pranav, Vashisht, if they are asking you correct, incorrect, don't go for yes, wrong, true or false. If they're asking correct or incorrect, write in your answer correct, incorrect only. Use the same terms. Okay, some say correct, some say incorrect. Let us see whether it is correct or incorrect. Answer to question number F and see how do you write. How do you have to write in exams? The answer is incorrect. And can anybody tell me why it is incorrect? This is the same, this is same, this is same, this is same, this is same. This is where the difference is. When forming an overall conclusion of the financial statements, overall conclusion, auditor has to form an overall conclusion, right? He has to audit the financial statements. Preparation of financial statements is the responsibility of the management. So the question asks for preparation of financial statements. See, it is not the conclusion. Preparation of financial statements. Now you see those who are answering correct. Where did you fall in the trap? Very good, Anuradha. Yes, Varsha, Jyoti, good. Chali, let's move ahead. Other questions? Descriptive. Okay, see this question, 4 marks. Tree Limited presented its financial statements for the financial year 21-22 to its auditor for expressing an opinion thereon. The auditor, while carrying out the audit, started comparing various items of profit and loss account of the year under the audit with previous financial years. What is the auditor trying to achieve by carrying out those comparisons? So the use of analytical procedures, the advantage is what is the need of analytical procedures? This is what the question is asking. Good, Priyanka. Josh, that is very important. See, you asked me what mistakes we do. The most important part is students don't read the question properly. The pressure in those 3 hours of examination, it overtakes you so eagerly, so early, that you stop applying your mind to what the question is being asked. What question is being asked? You're hell-bent upon writing the answer. हमने इतना याद करा है, हमें बस लिखना है. The question क्या पूछ रहा है, आप क्या लिख रहे हैं, ध्यान ही नहीं रहता. And that is where we commit mistakes. Presence of mind is very much important while reading the question. Make sure whether it is a practical exam or a theory exam, you read the question properly, word by word. Okay? Chaliye, let's see the answer. Part B, 4 marks question. Purpose of applying analytical procedures. We did this in the chapter today. Analytical procedure use comparisons and relationships to assess whether account balances or other data appear reasonable. The auditor would achieve the following by carrying out the comparison. So, comparisons with that of previous period. Comparisons with the ratios of the previous year. He will assess whether the accounts have been manipulated to inflate or deflate the profit. We did this when I tried to tell you what is inflating profit and suppressed profit, unusual transaction amounts ratios. This is what the 4 marks paper, a 4 marks question wanted of you. Okay. Now, let us move to another question paper. Another question. See, this is December 21 question paper. So let us see, where do we have our questions over here? Sampling. Statistical sampling, being more scientific and without personal bias, will always be appropriate to use under all circumstances. Answer to party. Come on, फटाफट बताइए. Statistical sampling, being more scientific and without personal bias, will always be appropriate to use under all circumstances. What is your answer in this case? This is from sampling. What is your answer? Come on. Incorrect. I have received 3 incorrects. Other people are sleeping or reading the question word by word. Okay. Good, Jyoti. Keith. Pritika, no. Let us see the answer. Incorrect. Statistical sampling is widely accepted way of sampling as it is more scientific without personal bias, and results can be evaluated and projected. But some circumstances where this approach is not usable, like exact accuracy is required or in case of legal requirements. Good, you people remember, very good. And Jash, Geet, Jyoti have given their explanation as well. Very good. Very good. Let us move to descriptive question. With reference to essay 530, the sampling array, audit sampling, explain briefly the following factors that the auditor may consider when determining the sample size for the test of details. 3 marks question. The desired level of assurance, the stratification of the pollution. It's not pollution, it's population. Okay, there's a clerical error. So, simple answer, descriptive question. Now, the question related to chapter 6. When a business operates in more automated environment, we are likely to see several business function and activities happening within the system. List down the business function and activities happening within the system. 3 marks question. Let us see the answer. So this is something which is you can do directly, right? Sample size question. See, this is the one which we were talking about, instances where technology is used in chapter number 6. Right? So these are the kind of questions which we did case studies in the last 2 chapters. And now I wanted to do these type of questions with you from the previous examinations. I hope this will be of much use to you. And I also want to show you a file. Okay, can anybody tell me what is the most useful file over there on the ICI website for the preparation of your exams? Come on, tell me. Last question for the day from my side. What is the most useful file you can find on the ICI website for the preparation of your exams? I deem it as the most useful. Others are useful as well, but I consider I give it the topmost priority. Which one is it? Is my screen visible to everyone? What I'm doing on the ICI website, is it visible to all? So I'll take you that file. I'll take you to that file. Yes, please. Revision capsule, MTP, RTP, revision capsule, study year, past year question papers, MCQ and case scenarios question, MTP, RTP subjects. Okay. So nobody could get it. Let me tell you the most important file. Let me see. There has been a. Okay, let us see our audit. Okay. It is somewhere else. Here it is. People, can you see in the section of suggested answers where you have suggested answers to all your previous examination question papers? Here it is. Does anybody know about this file? Does anybody know about this file? Summary of examiner comments. Yes. So this is with respect to December 21 question paper. The examiners, after checking the test copies, give their comments. Where did the students lack? What did the students could not, and what the students could not understand? What answers we wanted? Where did we have to deduct more marks? Where were the students wrong? By majority of the students this, some of the students this, did this. So with respect to any previous attempt, you can take up that suggested answer or question paper and read this file so that you can understand what you are doing correct sitting at the comfort of your home. In those 3 hours of the examination under intense pressure and anxiety, what mistakes you could commit during the exam time of those 3 hours. What presence of mind do you require to be sitting over there you require? So this file helps us in overcoming those mistakes, which we do at home as well, while reading, while revising, while practicing, and which we might commit under pressure and anxiety in those 3 hours. Let us see what the examiners write. Let us see. Let us move to auditing. Right? So I'll show you the accounts part as well. See, what does it say? Few of the examinees failed to calculate the amount of exchange difference, unable to explain the accounting treatment. Some of them only quoted that a difference to be debited to P&L account without mentioning the alternative. That means they wanted an alternative from you as well, where the difference can be transferred to foreign currency monetary item translation difference account as well. Now, the B part was a cash flow statement question. Some of the examinees failed to see, some of the examinees, majority did correct. Few of the examinees means very less. Some of the examinees failed to prepare cash flow statement for the given transactions. Most of them means majority, you could be one of them, did not mention that machinery acquired by the issue of share does not amount to cash outflow, hence not considered in the cash flow statement. आप क्या करेंगे? कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट बना के आ जाएंगे. बट आपका एग्जामिनर आपसे नोट्स में, वर्किंग नोट्स में ये बात जानना चाहता था भी आपने मशीनरी की परचेज अगेंस्ट इश्यू ऑफ शेयर्स को कैश फ्लो में क्यों नहीं लिया? बिकॉज कैश इज नॉट इन्वॉल्व हियर. मशीनरी इज बीइंग परचेज्ड अगेंस्ट इश्यू ऑफ शेयर्स. देयर इज नो कैश आउटफ्लो. कैश आउटफ्लो नहीं है तो आपने कैश फ्लो में नहीं लिया, पर आपने क्या वर्किंग नोट्स में उसकी जस्टिफिकेशन दी? नहीं दी, वहां नंबर कट गए. तो आपको यहां पता चला भी जो आप काम नहीं कर रहे, वट एवर यू आर नॉट डूइंग इन द मेन क्वेश्चन, you have to take that up in working notes because only then you'll get marks. So this is why the most important file, so that you are able to understand what mistakes you could commit in the exam. Josh, you asked me this question and I hope I'm able to give you the answer with proper evidence. Right? प्रणव, चक दे इंडिया वाला मोटिवेशन काम करता है, करके देखो, अच्छा लगेगा. ये लिंक की रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं है. सी, देखिए, you can go on the ICI website, BOS knowledge portal, click the suggested answers icon and you'll get it over there. Okay. Any more doubts, or we may find out? Any more doubts, you may come up with it. Otherwise, we'll finish off, and then next we'll meet for the last chapter of audit. Till that time, if you have any more doubts relating to presenting your answers, how to write audit, what else, you can always pull them up and can ask me at the end of this batch, this session, last chapter. Meanwhile, I would request you guys to study along with any one such question paper and examiner comments. Right? Priyanka, not only you, but many of the students are not aware of it, and they usually don't serve the ICAI website. They feel that only RTP, MTP is over there, but this is that's why I tell you this is the most important file and the most productive file. Great, everyone. Take care. Good night. We'll meet at the end of the session batch. Bye-bye.